different, give a little bit of different context to who we are, what this is all about, faces other than those well-prepared avatars on Twitter. So we just wanted to go over a little bit about what CAFEDCA is about, what kind of we see from it, what we hope from it, and how you can get involved. And then also we want to talk about some of the pros and cons of where we're all at football-wise, because that's the hot button I think for a lot of people involved with CAFEDCA, is how their football season determines their content and how their content is distributed, so on and so forth. And I'll let the guys talk a little bit about that. But let me first get introductions and let them speak a little bit. First, Heath Trabue, he's the video producer from Stanford. We'll hear from him in a little bit. Chip, correct me if I'm wrong, Fontanazza? That's a lot of syllables.
Yeah, you got it, though.
Fontanazza, he's the multimedia manager at UCF. Alex Souza, he's a director of game day experience and promotions at Coastal Carolina. And Dennis Trapani, right?
Yep.
I always just call you Dennis. He's the director of video production and digital media at Wyoming. And my name's the easiest. It's Jimmy Smith. I'm the assistant AD for multimedia at the University of Delaware. So first, we'll talk a little bit about CAFEDCA and our thoughts about this. This was an idea that was an idea, and we kind of took over. So we'll give credit where credit is due. The KIDA guys in the past, Brian Bauscher and those guys, kind of were the originators of this idea, but we wanted to take a little bit further. And one of the first people involved with it, who I had interactions with, both Chip and Heath, but I'll let Heath go first. Heath Trabue from Stanford, your thoughts about this organization and what you want from it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's basically, all of us have, somewhat of a video background, somewhat of a digital background. It's, just one of those things. You go to these conventions, there's the marketing area, there's the SID area, and we kind of fall, somewhere in the middle of, those two things and then some other areas. So it's just kind of trying to find a place, to call home, for lack of a better term, for all of us. We have kind of the same problems, that we deal with. So give a sounding board to, some other people in kind of the same position, and, try and help each other out, because, certainly it's an area that, is seeing a lot of growth right now, and an area that, none of us are really asked to ever do less in our jobs, only do more and do more different. We were really just trying to, find a place to talk out some ideas and, share some common problems.
Chip, he probably stole all your thunder, but your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of what he said I agree with, and the biggest thing for me is that my position at UCF, I work, in between video and communications directly, and then it kind of bleeds over into marketing a little bit. But the thing is, it seems like nowadays with content and digital media, that's what everybody's looking for, and it doesn't really fall under one category. And I think that's the one thing that all of us can kind of relate to, is that, it's not just one area of focus. And, I know, Jimmy, you and I have talked about this when we were at, there's sometimes you sit in with COSADA, you sit in with NACMA, and, like, you get little bits and pieces of everything that we're trying to do, and that's kind of what it is. And it seems like now there's so many people that are kind of like Swiss Army knives, per se. You have so many different things to do that 5 years ago really didn't exist. I mean, I know I came from the media side of things, and the fact that you would hire somebody just to run social media accounts was kind of unheard of. But now we're in the day and age where that stuff is happening, and people are making money, not just, selling ads and everything, but, helping to secure donations, tell stories, and things like that matter. And, to me, I think that this is kind of moving forward. It's just going to continue to grow. Now, do we know the direction that it's going to take? Maybe not the exact direction, but we do know that it's growing, and that's the area where everyone seems to want to have as content, and especially it goes from the bigger, Power 5 schools all the way down to Division 3, that they just want content, they want to have streaming games, and they just, want to have a presence online.
Dennis, your thoughts there in Wyoming? We interacted when you were at Charleston. Now you're kind of growing up, and you're a big guy out there in the West now.
I think the other two guys kind of covered everything. Especially like they said, we all have the five of us all have video backgrounds, and we get pulled in so many different directions. And I know here at Wyoming, it's okay, the video board show has to be great, and yet, okay, we have to do Coach's television show, but we have to web stream 100 games a year. And so, you really are pulled, myself, my staff, we're pulled in so many different directions that, the kind of point behind this is, you have a place you can go now. Marketing has NACMA, and you can go there and you can bounce ideas off your contemporaries and stuff like that, and that's kind of the point of this for video, social media, graphic design, all that stuff. If you have a question or you're wondering maybe how to do something, then this is the place for you. You can come ask questions, get feedback from people who do what you do. And, at least from my perspective, it's a great thing to be a part of, for sure.
And finally, Alex Suzy used to be at the Colonial Athletic Association. He's now at Coastal Carolina, and his job's changed a little bit. Still video, really, when you boil it down, but a little more social, I think, on your plate now, and kind of weigh in about why it's important that you're part of this, too.
I think, with the whole thing when you guys first brought it up to me was it's a hybrid of everything, and I think that's kind of what we're turning into is a hybrid worker, employee, whatever it is. And everything we do, it's going to some piece. It's either going on a news story, on the website, on social, on the video board, on TV show. So we have tentacles in every area of the department. The athletic foundations are going to come to us and our people, whether it's full-time video services guys like I luckily have under me, but they're going to come to us for any help. A lot of people can stay in their lane where we're not really we're not able to stay in our lane. So I think having this, and like everyone said, having the ideas and learn the efficiencies and things like that of kind of a new and evolving hybrid position is huge for us and for anyone else getting into it.
Google is not letting me enable the Q&A portion of Hangout, which is really frustrating. And Derek, I'm sure you're watching right now, and I know you're a whiz at this. But with that in mind, go ahead and use hashtag CAFEDCA chat like we normally do for the Twitter chats. If you want to interact and have a question, it's just going to be the 5 of us talking, but we'll take questions. I'm kind of disappointed at the functionality there, so maybe we'll get that fixed for next time. All right. To kind of echo everybody's thoughts, this is something that's important to us. It's a long acronym, but we wanted to get everything incorporated into it. And it's not about video anymore. Everybody's right. Our content needs to be distributed everywhere. We're the graphics guys. We're the GIF guys. We're the podcast guys. We're doing live. We're doing on demand. So we wanted to have a place where it's above the level of what Kasai is talking about, and it's different but tangential to what's happening at NACMA. So the idea here is that we have our own place, we have our own thing, and it starts to grow from here. Ultimately, we want to be involved in Dallas with the NACTA convention and have our own stance there. But right now, trying to grow. We'll get a little bit more into that later about the future, but I just wanted everybody to kind of hear a little bit more about what we're thinking and what this is. It's still an amorphous thing. It's changing. We want photographers involved. We want graphic designers involved. We want broadcasters involved because we know in our departments that those are the things that we're overseeing and that we're a part of and we're distributing. And so we wanted to kind of bring all those people together and share tips and tricks and talk a little bit more about what's going on out there in kind of a different way of thinking. So with that in mind, let's transition into football, which for all of us is underway and in varying levels of disarray for us, or you're doing well. We're 1 and 2, so for us the content is kind of touchy, and I wanted to throw this out to you guys. Winning and losing, you still got to put something out there, but does winning and losing change what you put out there?
I'll take that one because I'm really in that position right now where we're 0-3. We're not having the greatest start to the season. I think yesterday the team played a lot better. Went up to Washington State and played a Pac-12 team very, very well for the majority of the game. So that certainly helps what we're doing. But it doesn't really. At the end of the day, it kind of changes what we put out, but it doesn't really. We still have to do the coaches show. We still have to present highlights of the game. Coach still has to talk about it. Coach still has to talk about what they're doing at practice. He still has to talk about what they're going to do in the game next week. So you really, the hard part is, you're 0-3 and you have to put a positive spin on it. But There are ways to do that. There are definitely ways to do that. We're a really young team. I think we're the fourth youngest team in the country, maybe the second youngest team in the country behind, I think, Vanderbilt, I want to say. But so we've focused on that. Okay, they're young, they're making mistakes right now, but when these guys get it, it's going to be really, really good in the future, and that's kind of the perspective we've been taking on it so far.
Yeah, and I'll kind of piggyback onto what you said. We're 0-3 as well. Obviously, not the kind of start that we expected to have. And our video staff, they still have to do their coaches show, and they have a magazine style show too. Do a fantastic job putting that together. But the biggest change it has for us, from a content standpoint, is online. Because the more and more you post out there after a loss, it just gives fans more of a chance to have negative comments and everything. So the one thing that we've done, having lost the last 3 weeks, we do put some of what our head coach said up online, because it does give fans a chance to hear what he actually said. Now you don't have to put everything out there. And another thing that we've kind of done, not post-game wise but preview wise, there kind of been some sidebar stories that I've done and we posted online, like we traveled out to Stanford where Heath is about a week ago, and I did a feature on the guys traveling out there, what it was going to be like. They traveled to Ireland the year before, and threw some video and stuff in there, put something creative. And another thing that we did, since it was a late kickoff, 10:30 out on the East Coast and 7:30 on the West Coast, I put together a little spoof video of our broadcast crew doing Saturday Nights Live, and that got some pretty good reception. And at the same time, that's something that's content, but it kind of gets away from the fact of whether you won or lost. It's just something creative that fans can enjoy. And then the only negative thing is when the content's still out there, you can still get negative comments whenever you lose. You just have to be prepared for that.
Well, the other two of you are on the flip side. You're on the winning side. So what's the content like with that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you still have to put something out there. So, we started the year with, not so great a week with a loss on the road to an unranked team when we were ranked and had some, pretty good publicity going into it. So, I think, having, been around some teams that have lost, and then, obviously where we're at right now, just beating USC, who is ranked 6th, we want to capitalize on that momentum a little bit. So it's more so, the type of content you do. You can be a little bit more newsy with some of the stuff you put out. You have to put out the press conference afterwards. Maybe a little bit of, photography or something like that. But when you have an opportunity with a win, it's basically you can't post enough stuff. So we have our pictures from the game, some graphics that our graphics team is able to put out there. We have our big highlight edit. Maybe we'll do another one that's a little bit shorter in the middle of the week to kind of inject some of that win to our fan base. But it is kind of more so not that you're doing less, it's just that you're going to be doing different types of things. Obviously no one wants to see a highlight package of a game you lost. That it's one of those things, they're kind of looking for answers, they want to kind of more so understand. So, if you're lucky enough to have, a good coach, which we have, who's able to, talk, to the media effectively, talk to your alumni base. Our coach is an alum. So, I think that helps out a little bit, but, you kind of go to the point of, do you want to celebrate this, or do you want to, just kind of let everyone know, the sky isn't falling, things will be okay. So it's more so not more or less, but just kind of different for how you approach things like that when you're lucky enough to have a couple good wins.
Alex, you have the best team in the country at the FCS. What's it like to have that problem?
It's tough. No. I mean, kind of like what Heath said. I mean, we can't post enough right now. People are eating up everything we do, and I mean we also had the pleasure of announcing the Sun Belt thing too. I mean we've only had good things so far this year, so we're a little spoiled right now. But one thing I learned working at the conference level and going to all these conference games is I'd go to a CAA matchup, and you got to give as best you can an equal love to both teams, and so that's what I've brought back here when I was originally at Coastal, I was an alum, and if we lost, I just went home. We didn't put out highlights. I was just done, and I walked away. And now, to the chagrin of my video guy, I have him, telling the story of each game with every highlight. So if we lose, he's still going to tell the story of the game. He's going to show the other team winning. He's going to put the score graphic up. I think we would probably hold off on doing, the full Facebook album we did today and all those things when we lose. But it's certainly, I think, just keeping the consistency up is what I want us to do. If something comes up like we lose, we haven't lost at home in any sport yet that I've been at. So when we lose, I hope we still put out a highlight and do all that so that our fans still see whoever it is, women's soccer, volleyball, it doesn't matter. They see our kids playing, and we do an interview with the coach or an athlete, and that way we keep the consistency up so they know after a game to come, whether it's to our video unit's Twitter, the main Twitter, or the website, they know that something's going to be there for them.
Again, Google's not letting me do the chat functionality on the side here, so if you want to interact with us, ask a question, or say one of us is not right or we are right, use CAFEDCA Chat, hashtag CAFEDCA Chat on Twitter, and I've got the feed up right now. We'll take a look at that as we get it. Kind of weighing in a little bit on what we do. We're 1-2 on the year at the FCS level. Had a really disappointing loss in week number 1, a game that we should not have lost against Jacksonville. A big win for them, so it was a celebratory thing for them. But we still had to produce content. We made a highlight melt from the broadcast. It was a home game, so I had a little more inventory in my pocket. We made the highlight melt. We showed them winning. We took some lumps on Facebook for posting a highlight that didn't feature us a lot. But I think you guys are right. You have to be factual. You have to be newsy about it. And then we produce what we call a recap, which is the presser kind of cut up, not necessarily in a favoritism way, but it's cut up so it's condensed, and it gives us a chance to show some of the videography that we had from the game based on what they're talking about. And when you lose, it becomes just fodder for people to comment on or take shots at the coach and the administration for. When you do win, it's your most viewed content of the week or the month. So you still have a job to put that stuff out there, and I think you guys are all right. It's hard. You got to bite the bullet, but they played whether you win or lose, and you want to show off the guys' talents, and that's whatever sport it is. Mm-hmm. You want to show off that they were out there, and it may seem like it doesn't help with recruiting, but that content matters a lot to family members and the kids. It's amazing how many times in a loss we'll see kids ripping off highlights and putting them on Instagram or taking screenshots of themselves and making it their new avatar on Twitter. They just like that content, and I think that adds to spreading out the brand, and I think that's important regardless win or lose.
And now, Jimmy, let me ask you a question, because I think this is something that, when, obviously a lot of us started out in a situation kind of like this, where, you're overseen by someone who is not necessarily knowledgeable about what your medium is, whether it be social media, video, or whatnot. The goal of all this stuff is engagement. Mm-hmm. So, when you produce that content for a loss, you may get some negative feedback, but you're still getting feedback. Versus when you don't do anything and then there's just kind of nothing. So, how do you kind of manage that? Because you guys, produce a lot of content, win or lose, no matter what. How do you manage that as far as, making it so people know that they go to, your website or your Facebook page, to be able to see this consistently?
Well, I think the way that my staff's built, it's myself and a full-time assistant, Nina Raspa, who does a fantastic job. But then I have 20 unpaid student volunteers, and for me, that content has to come out because I have to give them something. There has to be a carrot. So it's kind of twofold. You want the content to be out there. You want to be the TV station of, in my case, Delaware Athletics. But I also want to give a chance for these kids to do work, have things published, get real-life experience, and then it helps twofold. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but I think it's just important to have consistency there, because you go out to these events, you do all this work, you don't want to just fold it up and leave like it never happened, because there may have been a record broken, or a really an important goal, or something that you can use B-roll in the future for a feature video. So you might as well turn some content out of it instead of hiding from losses.
Go ahead, Jim.
Dennis. Well, I mean, I think the other thing too is like you said. I mean, there's always stuff you can repurpose. You're always going to have highlights that you're going to get during a game. Is it going to be that day that they want to see it if it's a loss? No, but we've used that in features. We've used it on TV shows, and that's where we still get a benefit from being there to cover everything.
I've used touchdowns that were called back in highlights. I mean, nobody's going to know,
I've used blocks like that.
What I was going to say was, our first football game, home game, we lost to North Dakota, an FCS team. Obviously not the way we wanted to start the season, but the game wasn't on TV. And so when we put the highlights up, that was a huge win for North Dakota. It was the first time they ever beat an FBS team. Their fans, one of their SIDs, one of their video guys, retweeted our tweet of the highlights, and their fans ate it up. Which, obviously, I work for Wyoming. It's, obviously, it's not my job to make content for North Dakota fans, but that was an interesting kind of side source of viewership for me. And when I saw that, I didn't even think about it when I put the highlights up, and I checked it the next day, and I went, oh, that's pretty interesting, actually.
Well, here's another situation, too, because I know that some coaches, when you talk to them, if you lose, some of them don't want any of that stuff out, which is understandable. And at the end of the day, it is their program, so you have to respect their wishes. And, there was a little highlight video featurette that I did on our women's soccer team that was in the NCAA tournament. They ended up beating Georgia, I think it was, to advance and move on. And Georgia ended up scoring a goal. Now, I didn't show that goal because we wanted to be pro-UCF, but then we kind of had discussion, as a staff and everything. You know what? Like, if we win and we tell the whole story, it might not be that bad to show, a Georgia goal if the coaches are okay with it. And to me, sometimes that's kind of what it comes down to. And like the coaches we have at UCF have given me great access to their program, so I just kind of defer to them on some things like that.
And I'll jump off that too. I'm very lucky in the sense that Coach Bowl, when he got here, we sat down and we talked, and especially when we were prepping to do his television show. And it's got big viewership. It's on Root Sports. A lot of people see it. And I said to him, I go, now if we lose or the opposing team rips off an 80-yard touchdown run, what do you want me to do? And he said, show it. He said, we're not going to show 7 minutes of Wyoming highlights and then go, oh, hey, we lost. He said, you gotta show what happened on the field. He goes, or else what's the point? So I'm very lucky in that regard, and I don't think you can understate the significance of your coach being on board with the idea of not trying to sugarcoating is probably a bad term for it, but not trying to hide what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think along the same lines, like if we had lost last night, it was close. They had a throw into the end zone as time expired that would have tied it up. If we had lost, we still play next week, and we still need to sell tickets next week. So if all of a sudden we go, radio silence all over the place because we lost, not only the football team will notice that, and they'll let us know about it, but also we would need to find a way, not necessarily, I guess spin would be kind of the word, but to frame it in that, we're moving on to next week and tell people that we still play on Saturday, the 26th, so we can't go radio silent and just forget about them because it is still the biggest thing we do on campus, and it gets the biggest crowds we'll ever do, so we need to keep going and not just, sulk over the loss.
Well, that's hard, and it's really, really hard in the one-goal losses in soccer and the one-goal losses in field hockey, and it's difficult to just show a bunch of dribbling and maybe a couple shots and a save here for those sports, and then not show the goal. And again, we're getting a little bit into the technical side or the opinion side, but I think we're all of the belief that the game happened, and treat it like ESPN would treat it, I guess, in terms of the way that you cover it. And ultimately, the voices you're hearing are pro your department, and so there is a spin to it, and the way the descriptions are written and the places that it's posted and things like that, it's still your content. So I guess don't lose too much of the ownership of it or too much of the feel that it's yours and you control it when you're putting out stuff like that. All right, on to the next one. We lost Heath. I'm trying to get him back right now. Live TV, Interesting. All right, just send him a link. We'll see what happens. I wanted to get into some of the cool stuff that you guys have seen in terms of live coverage of games. Now, granted, we're all doing different things, wearing headsets, have cameras. In my case, I'm running our social suite during the games. What are some of the cool things that you've seen other teams do, or some of the cool things that you guys do in terms of live tweeting or live covering? What kind of content are you creating, and what are some of the cool things you've seen?
Well, I'll start out. I mean, I know our director of social media here at UCF, Eric DeSavio, does a great job. One of the new things that he's done is implement Snapchat. And I know at first he was concerned that, we might not have, it'd be tough to kind of keep up with the content and everything, but we haven't had too much of a problem. And the thing that I know he enjoys so much about that is it's like real-time content, and people, especially around the college age, follow it. And we've really gotten, great feedback. And to us, that's one of the new things that we've done that has been really successful here, really in all areas, being able to promote, ticket sales, things going on campus before the game, and even, things during the game.
We have David Primus, our assistant AD for marketing, does a great job with all that stuff, and he oversees our social media area. Some of the cool things on Snapchat, we have it kind of geo-blocked where you get a little Laramie, Wyoming logo on top. Like when you're inside Laramie and you do a Snapchat from there, you can put a little Laramie, Wyoming logo over the video or the picture or whatever you're taking. Just little things like that. They've really done a great job this year of increasing our presence across all social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. There's a lot more out there. It's certainly helping with recruiting because that's kind of where these kids these days are going. I don't mean to sound like my dad here when I say these kids, but they're 16, they're 17, they're 18 years old, and they want it at their fingertips at all the time. And our guys have done a fantastic job, and they've even done a great job just in terms of getting our video stuff out there. We're getting more views, more impact, more injection than we've ever gotten with our video stuff here, and that's definitely a credit to our marketing staff.
Yeah, I think on our end, that's one area we could probably do better at. We had a big overhaul of our cabling and everything in the stadium this year, and I got bogged down with that, and we had issues with our replay system. So social media kind of took a back burner last night. We started off on the road the first two games, and our head SID, Mike Haywood, he does a great job with kind of the play-by-play. He doesn't overkill it. He focuses on big moments, and then he's one of the best guys with notes. So he'll come up with those Sports Center stats about the best performances and stuff like that against certain teams and on the road and on turf. Our fans love information. We have huge stat things on our board throughout the game because they want stats. So his stuff in game on social is great. We could do a little better with our graphics. We have a sponsored halftime graphic and end game graphics, so we do those. We could probably do better with in-game pictures and things like that. So that's kind of one thing on the docket coming up this next week, especially since we have 15 photographers total out there. We could probably pull from a couple more than we did last night and do it earlier than we did last night.
Well, here's how kind of we're structured at Delaware, and again, this is really kind of attainable. I think at most levels. I actually worked with a former colleague of mine at a D2 school to implement some of these things in real time. As I mentioned, I have those 20 students, so I switched it to where I'm not on the field anymore for the first time in my career, so I'm not shooting. I'm actually inside managing all the social media and content distribution. So we have 6 videographers on the field and a couple photographers that we have access to. What I do is I send one of my students out there with a laptop and a card reader, and he'll, after every big play, touchdown, interception, something that's visual that we can get, I'll have him import the top angle that we have from video and the photo from a photographer and send it through Dropbox back to us inside, where we can GIF it, we can post it on Twitter, we can put it on Instagram, things like that. So that's really been a big benefit to us. Some of those things are attainable at smaller schools. Some of those things, especially the photographer side, I think is doable. And some of those things are kind of big school feel in the way we do it. And then a shout out to Corbin Pate from Stephen F. Austin, one of the CAFEDCAs. I don't know if he's watching right now, but he got us turned on to Snappy TV, and the CAA our conference signed a deal with Snappy TV to have us have a different kind of means of content distribution. So now what we do is we live cut up the web stream and are able to pull out highlights almost instantly after big plays, and there's huge engagement on stuff like that. So there's a backwater way to do that. You can run the stream through a computer and live capture on another, but Snappy TV obviously makes it the easiest. So those are the things that we do. Some of the other things I've seen, just kind of bounce off of you guys, the GIF touchdown graphics, where it's just like a touchdown and then a headshot, or touchdown and then the player's name, or goal in the player's name. Some of those pre-built things, I think, are what some schools are doing to try to get ahead of stuff like this without having live content.
Yeah, and actually I'll kind of piggyback on that. Eric DeSalvo and I, at the beginning of the school year, I guess in August, we started to put together a GIF library. So I would go through our video clips so we could have, certain celebrations or certain plays for moments. And I know we've used that a decent amount. We're still trying to stockpile on that so we have stuff from this year. And also the Snappy TV stuff that you mentioned, Jimmy. We started using that at UCF more for our Olympic sports like soccer and volleyball right now. And what I've done is that I also run our student broadcasting program. So like for a sport like soccer, when we have like a person doing play-by-play in color, we have the person on color monitoring the stream, and then when the play happens, he'll cut it up, and they'll be able to post that on social media. And of course, the SID is right next to them, so they can all kind of manage that content together at the same time. So that's been really successful so far. I mean, we've had a couple of hiccups here and there getting used to everything, but I mean, like you said, the engagement numbers are there, and people love seeing the goals and all the plays right away.
Faster is better.
Exactly.
Anybody else on that topic, idea? Nothing? Okay, cool. All right, Heath is officially, he wants me to stop it and let him back in. Thoughts?
Can he go over to Google about a mile away and try to jump on the chat?
He was bragging about that. He said he could. What else about football? The foreseeable future, or kind of this fall season? Do you guys foresee, what are some of the things you're doing? We have a web show. It's a coach's show. It's a web show that we do that got fully branded. That was kind of a cool thing for us. Somebody threw some money at us, so that always feels good. Anything on your guys' end?
We're just trying to do a lot of equipment upgrades right now. They're renovating our football facility, and part of that, we're getting a new video board. It's going to be gigantic, 80 feet wide. And so right now, my main thought is, okay, we need to get better cameras, better glass for the cameras, more replay channels, just things like that to be able to, because if we're going to make an impact with this gigantic video board, the show needs to look good. The show needs to look like it could go on broadcast. So that's over the next year and a half. That's really going to be my main focus, to try to get that to where it should be.
Yeah, we like I said, talking before the social media thing, we went full fiber to most of our cameras. We still get in 1080 on some of the ones that are closer to our control room, so we didn't have to spend the money on that. But people just looking at the board last night, I could hear the fans talking about how much better it looked and everything like that. And so now it's up to us to make our show worth, how good that looks on the board. It needs to be that quality in terms of our production and how things look. We can't have the wrong angles to start off a promotion or an on-field thing. And we were giddy looking at the highlights last night from having a high end zone for the first time ever, and we had a guy run right at us with a kick return for a touchdown, and we were so excited about that. So now we're going to get all these things that we've never had in terms of angles and how high quality it is. So now we have to live up to the quality of our stadium and our board now, because we're actually using it to its best look, and now we have to produce as well as it looks.
One thing we did 2 weeks ago for the first time, we have fiber all throughout our football stadium now into our control room that we built last summer, and we have such a good relationship with Root Sports because we do the show for them and stuff that I know the producer pretty well, and we were just kind of bouncing ideas off each other earlier in the week before our second home game. And I said, hey, I have all these fiber converters. I can take SDI and send it down the line. I'm like, can I grab a couple of your camera angles and just pop them into my switcher? And he said, yeah, it was no problem. So, I mean, that added an element to our show. Like Alex said, we had a high end zone for the first time. our handheld is kind of tethered by a cable. They have a wireless handheld, so I was able to get their wireless handheld too. And just from a replay standpoint, not necessarily putting the cameras up live, I did that here and there, but just from a replay standpoint, to have those different angles to throw up on the board. And you're talking a high end zone camera that has a 110x lens on it. I mean, they can get right in full length of the field, right on the quarterback's face. I mean, and people saw stuff like that, and they loved it on the video board, and we showed replays like that. And it actually we had an absolutely huge block on a punt return, and none of our cameras caught it because they were all tight on the punt return. Well, that high end zone camera caught it, and I could hear the reaction of the crowd when we showed the block on the video board from that high angle. Somebody had their comm open out in the stadium, and I could just hear the reaction of the crowd when they saw it, and it was fantastic.
On the social front, we kind of leave that one alone a lot because a lot of us are video guys. But what else do you guys foresee in the upcoming future in terms of content? I know for me, we've kind of been sitting out on the sidelines on things like Snapchat and on things like Periscope, really getting full into it, because word on the street is it looks like Facebook is going to try to blow all those things up and erase them from the earth. So I know there's some talk about the Facebook the live functionality that they're going to have that could put Periscope in trouble, and then some of their take back messaging features that they are going to roll out that look like they could threaten Snapchat. So kind of your guys' thoughts on the foreseeable stuff on social.
I thought it was interesting. I looked at our numbers. I keep track of a lot of stuff, like more on like the video side of things on online. And usually it was Facebook where we've had the majority of the views and the interaction, where in August things, or even during the summer, things seemed to kind of switch where it was more on Twitter than it was on Facebook. And for the Periscope stuff, I know we have obviously like dedicated accounts for each sport, but for Periscope we just really have one Knights account that we use for really periscoping everything, because I guess it's just tough sometimes to reach a huge audience when you have all those different sports. So that's why we just have one account for now.
Does Periscope exist in 6 months, a year? I mean, in our world, I know it'll exist because kids want to do kid stuff, but does it exist in our world in 6 months and a year?
I think some form of Periscope will exist. Will it be specifically Periscope? Maybe not, but I remember like Meerkat was the first thing that came out. That was there for good for like a hot minute, and then all of a sudden Periscope, since it was with Twitter, it's easier for people to use that app.
I think it has a place. I really kind of enjoy what SportsCenter does, where every now and again, or at least they were doing it. I don't know if they've done it in a while, but when they're in commercial break, you can Periscope with the anchors at the desk. So I think it has use in things like that. I'm not sure. There's always, when you're dealing with student athletes, sometimes, you have, they all have their moments, and I think a lot of athletic departments maybe try to limit, the ability of things like that to get out there. But I don't know. It's really weird. I know from my standpoint, we haven't really done a whole lot with it. That's probably more of a staffing thing than anything. But I think it has its place. I'm just not 100% sure what it is yet.
I think with specifically Periscope, we haven't done it yet. I've signed up for one, but I haven't really done anything with it. I think it would be definitely. I've seen people do it as a post-game interview and things like that. But being the former, current, whatever you want to call video guy, I want that to be high quality and somewhat produced. So I don't need it to be out there that quickly. We get it out 10 minutes later. Like, it doesn't need to be immediate. For me, I think Periscope could be huge, at least in our end, maybe as a fan engagement type of thing, where we send one of my marketing runners, students, into the crowd, and they show people what it's like to sit in various sections or follow the mascot around or things like that. I think, like I was talking about with, now that we have high quality stuff, that's what I want to put out when it's, game action and things like that. But the quickness and the engagement and showing people maybe what they're missing when they're sitting at home following the game and watching our stream, and then, or they're in the dorms and they see it pop up on our main account and they're clicking, they see how much fun their fellow students are having. Maybe that will help them come to the next game a little more. So we might roll on that, and that's kind of a numbers thing as well for us. Just in terms of finding a way to do it.
I'll kind of jump in there too. I mean, with the whole quality and I guess quantity argument. I mean, I think it varies sometimes because we've used Periscope, say for example, like pregame introductions for like our conference championship softball game. So we did all that stuff on the field, and the game comes on. So it's an ESPN broadcast. So obviously we can't Periscope any of that, but if we would post that about 15 minutes later, nobody would really care because the game is going on. And like the high quality stuff, like the highlights and everything, yeah, I think that's stuff that you definitely want to hold on to, and there's a certain time to release that. But I think there are certain moments that you want to get up right away because, to be honest, in about 10, 15 minutes, nobody might care about it. I mean, it'll be good if you have high quality stuff to use maybe in the future, but I think that there sometimes is like such a short time span after something happens for people to really care about it that it's sometimes for us it wasn't worth our time even posting something. We've tried to shoot something of high quality and get it posted right away, and when we did, we just didn't have the same interaction that we did when it was on a Periscope, and that happened right off the bat.
Yeah, I think creating a sub or a different universe or atmosphere where people can watch that event on Periscope and then, I already saw it, I don't need to see the thing that you worked 3 hours on to create. So, I think that's what you guys were trying to talk about, how why would you shoot it with your phone live and then shoot it on demand and then take 3-4 hours to create that content when people are, I saw it on Periscope, I feel good. Now, on the flip side, we had success with a jersey unveil. Our first Adidas, now that we're fully Adidas, jersey unveil was for women's lacrosse. It was a special uniform back in the spring, and we set up Periscope, and it was the first time the team had seen the jerseys, and we were in the locker room, and we actually brought in 3 other cameras, and we had such success on Periscope, I decided to really not put out a second piece. I just saved the Periscope video and put it on their Facebook. Now, quality was crappy because it's your phone, but that interaction and that fun and that emotion that was really raw was what that was all about anyway. So, I kind of went back and forth in that. Really, for me now, I'd rather just have control of it and produce it and make it look nice. It's the same way I am on Instagram. I would rather take a produced video and a edited photo and put them on Instagram instead of doing the Insta part of Instagram and shooting it within the app.
And I think the biggest question is just like, what's the end goal? Do you want the interaction, or do you want to put together something that's high quality? I'm sorry, Dennis.
Well, I just was going to ask Jimmy a question. How do you balance the risk-reward of doing something like that? I mean, obviously it's a uniform reveal. The team hasn't seen it yet. I guess there's always the chance that they could see it and go, meh. Like, how did you balance the risk-reward of that?
Well, I mean, it was such a hyped-up moment. I mean, the team knew they were getting – I don't even know where the team was thinking in this thing, but it was a big game. It was we have here in Delaware, it's the Be Positive organization that fights childhood cancer, and it was our cancer awareness game. The team has a Be Positive hero, a girl who survived cancer, is at 5 years remission. She's like on the team ceremoniously. And the game was in her honor. She had her own locker, had her own uniform. So there were a lot of other things that kind of built into that. I really think in most instances I would be safe in that scenario. But you're right. I mean, there could be instances where they're crappy uniforms. I did see them beforehand, thought they were kind of cool. So I think it was worth the risk, and it was a cool opportunity to show them in that raw moment, celebrating that moment. Now, where do you guys come out on the Insta of Instagram in terms of putting out content? Do you guys only put out edited stuff, pre-produced video, and photos, or are you taking photos and videos within the app?
I mean, there have been times where we've had a huge dunk in the middle of a basketball game or something like that, and I've gone so far as to just flip my phone out, put it in front of the replay machine, tell the guy to play the 3 angles back, and we've thrown that out there. But I mean, people loved it when we did that. I was like, okay, I gotta get this out there right now at this second so people can see that, because it's all over Twitter what a crazy dunk it was. People want to see it, and you know what? It wasn't great quality, but it got the point across. People got to see the dunk, and then when we put it up a couple hours later, produced with radio and that kind of stuff, it still got a ton of views.
Actually, here's another example, kind of related to that we did at UCF. We had actually a top play on SportsCenter in our one of our first baseball games of the season. We had this miraculous one-handed diving catch So, Eric, he took a quick vine of that video tag, like SC Top 10, and then that went viral. Then we put the whole video clip up afterwards, and that's how we were able to get that on the Sports Center because of the quickness of it, and because it was an early game. They emailed us about the clip and everything. So that was one of our most successful moments, with getting a play out there. Just the video looked crappy at first, but then we put the better file up about an hour or so later once everything was over with.
I usually with Insta, unless it's some incredible sunset over one of our facilities, I generally use something that was already taken by either a professional photographer or someone who's at least somewhat decent. And that I have a whole bunch on either my camera roll or I'll go find it on Facebook and download it, then put it up. But yeah, I think in with video we haven't done a ton, but we would do it pre-produced probably. I just don't trust myself or anyone else really with getting something that I would like, and I think that comes from with us being the former video guys or current, that kind of we want it to be that high quality. And especially when I think everything on Instagram, like you like the access and stuff, but I think really good-looking photos have always done better for us than just, hey, we're here with the team and it's just a bad photo off my phone. If you can get a good one from a photographer, or one thing I did at the baseball regional when we went to Texas A&M this year was I took one of these guys, the micro adapter for SD cards. I popped that into my DSLR camera, and I was taking pictures with that in the dugout or in the camera well, and then I just pop it into my phone and upload from there onto Twitter and all those things. And people were like, "Wow, your pictures look great. Your phone must be unbelievable," but it's not. I don't have that kind of money, so I luckily I am able to. We figured that out, and we've been doing that a lot at all our events, so that our photos on social look really good.
Suggestion for that too before we get out of here. Create a Dropbox between your computer and your phone so it's easier for you to move files back and forth between those two. With iOS, Instagram will only access your camera roll, as Alex was just talking about, so you'll need to move the file from Dropbox to your camera roll. With I have a Note 4, you'll need to you can push it from Dropbox to your Instagram app, but it will not let you resize with the new update. It will only keep it a square. You'll need to move it to the gallery, which is the Android version of Camera Roll, if you want to resize it, which I think the new resizing thing is very cool, especially with video. Yeah, big advantage, especially with video. So, guys, final thoughts. A quick update for everybody as we move forward with the organization. The next thing up is a website. It's been in the works. I know these three guys, Heath included, who we lost about 20 minutes ago. It's something we're continuing to work on. We know it's our next big step. It'll give us a place to put content and host content, things like this, and also content that you all can create in an effort to continue to grow. I've gotten some great emails from people from all over the country, Washington State to Washington, D.C. So I'm excited about where this can go. But, guys, final thoughts about what we got going here and where we want this to be in the future.
I mean, I'm just happy I got guys like you to talk to this stuff about, that do the same things at other universities. It's kind of nice and comforting, too, to know that, there are a ton of people that have hybrid positions like this and kind of know the same things that really all of us have to deal with at the schools that we're at.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Sometimes you get bogged down and you're in the middle of one of those, epic 16 to 18-hour days that we all love so much. And to know that you're not the only one going through that, to know that everyone else out there that does what you do is going through the same thing, and to be able to connect and bounce ideas off each other, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean it's the same thing that those guys said, and it's learning the efficiencies, I think, so that maybe those 16-hour days become 14-hour days. You're a slave to the schedule at one point, but. Yeah, I mean, I think learning the efficiencies is going to be huge for anyone that kind of joins on. Is something like that, which someone told me to do, to stick the micro SD into a mini SD, and it's helped me a ton and made us look better than and bigger than we really are. And I think learning a lot of those things from in all areas will be huge.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. Send footage to the opposing team when you shoot stuff. That's my message to everybody. We talked about that in the beginning. Send footage to the opposing team. You won't use it. They will, and they'll appreciate it. It's really important to myself and these guys that watch here today. We want to make sure you get involved. You can email us at CAFEDCA, that's CAFEDCA, @gmail.com. I'm at the Jimmy Smith on Twitter if you want to reach out to me. You can find me on Delaware Staff Directory. Souza, give yourself a social media selfish plug.
I have the same name as a professional Brazilian soccer player, so I have to add underscores and middle initials. So I'm underscore Alex H. Souza underscore is my Twitter, is actually my everything. Yeah, it's my everything. I try, synergy, branding.
Well done. Chip, what are you on Twitter with your 7-syllable last name?
That's what it is. It's Chip Fontanazzi. If you can pronounce the name, great. If not, just look for it on Twitter. There isn't a Brazilian soccer player named after me, so it should
Spell
be.
your last name for everybody.
It's Fontanazza. Simple.
Dennis, you have 2 because you did a little rebranding this summer.
Yeah, my main one is at YODTRAP, WYO_DTRAP. Trapani is not always the easiest name to say, but the nickname D-Trap has come in quite handy for me over the years.
Let me find Heath's because he's not here to defend himself.
I gotta say, we have the Italian last name contingent down pretty good.
Yeah. Heath is at Heath Trabue. Heath, traditional spelling, his last name is Trabue. He's at Stanford. You can find him. He has a lot of great stuff, too. So if you want to get involved, please reach out to one of us. We'd love to have some of your content, whether it's written or a video tutorial or something. We're excited about where this can go, and maybe we'll do this again sometime when we can keep Heath connected to the internet while he's at the dry cleaner or wherever he was while he was talking with us. So from Alex, Chip, Dennis, and Heath, I'm Jimmy. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you. Thanks. See you guys.